So, welcome everyone. Um, I'm really looking forward to sharing this evening with you and exploring some of the things that are um, up for me at the moment. And the theme of my reflection is losing our balance and finding our balance, wobbling. And I think it's particularly appropriate today because yesterday I tested positive for COVID. So I've had some wobbling moments, and I'm looking forward to hoping to keep the thread of my reflection as we move our way through the evening. Um, Suzuki Roshi once said, "I rest in every moment," and I'm remembering that this evening, and the possibility that I could rest during this hour with you. Maybe you could rest too, and we can take our time, and we may even have some pauses as we go along, losing our balance, finding our balance. So before Maria screen shares something from Suzuki Roshi for us, I would invite you to just notice what happens when you hear Suzuki Roshi's words. How do you, where are you in relation to it? What happens in your body and your mind as you hear it? So would you share it, please, Maria? Thank you. To live in the realm of Buddha nature means to die as a small being, moment after moment. When we lose our balance, we die, but at the same time, we also develop ourselves, we grow. Whatever we see is changing, losing its balance. The reason everything looks beautiful is because it is out of balance, but its background is always in perfect harmony. This is how everything exists in the realm of Buddha nature, losing its balance against a background of perfect balance. So if you see things without realizing the background of Buddha nature, everything appears to be in the form of suffering. One evening at Nothing Missing, a group had returned from a breakout room, and they asked me, can you explain this, please? And I caught myself feeling that as a teacher I should be able to explain it, particularly as I have a deep relationship with this piece. And I also noticed that I have a desire to kind of make things clear for people, to relieve them from the discomfort of not knowing. And I really caught myself thinking, well, what are you doing? And I felt a strong impulse which said, no, don't go there. And I didn't. And I'm very grateful that I didn't. And it opened up something to me about what we do in relation to each other in our practice. If I was to say anything about that piece, I would say when I read it, it allows me a sense of balance. I actually feel a sense of breathing out, and I have a sense of balance, and much more. But I'm also aware from a talk we listened to in Nothing Missing the other day, which I thought was a great talk and really spoke to me, but it didn't do the same for other people, some other people. And it was really helpful that they said that. It's very easy to think, wow, this is a great talk. It really speaks to me, but it doesn't speak to everyone. So what I said that evening is, what does this piece by Suzuki Roshi, what does it open up to you? How are you in relationship to it? And I left it at that and changed, in some ways, a habit I have of trying to kind of make things right. There's currently an article in Tricycle by a Dharma teacher called Dean Schluter. And it's about the remixing of the 1966 Beatles album Revolver. And the title is Of the Beginning, of the Beginning, of the Beginning, Revisiting Revolver, the newly remixed Beatles album with a fresh pair of Dharma ears. And it's been remixed by Giles Martin, who is the son of George Martin, who mixed all the Beatles albums in the 60s. And Dean said on the George Harrison song called I Want to Tell You, he said, but he, Harrison, makes the rookie mistake of trying to explain it to someone who isn't experiencing it. In England, we would probably say it's a schoolboy mistake. But he, Harrison, makes the schoolboy mistake of trying to explain it to someone who isn't experiencing it. Explaining never works. And in the song, Harrison says all those words, they just seem to slip away. And as often happens, it was very timely that I read that article while I was exploring this this point that I'm exploring around practice. And I'm aware that when we listen to a Dharma talk, we are making up a parallel Dharma talk all the time. We're not really listening to the Dharma talk we're listening to. We are hearing the Dharma talk through our own perceptions. I was listening to somebody talking about portrait artists, and he said, you could think of portrait artists as actually painting the person in front of them, but also painting themselves. It's a dual thing, two things going on, interweaving. When I think about the different portraits I see, I can see how different artists actually paint themselves as well as the person in front of them. If we go to our, our ancestors, or even our recent practitioners, many teachers won't explain things. When Dawu and Jinyuan went to perform a funeral ceremony, and Flint alluded to this in a recent talk, Jinyuan slapped the coffin and said, alive or dead? So he was asking a question about the great matter, alive or dead? And Dawood said, I won't say, I'm not telling you. And Jinyuan kept on at him on the way home, to the point where he said, if you don't tell me, I'm going to hit you. And he hit Dawood. But Dawu wouldn't tell him, alive or dead. He wouldn't explain it. And the sixth ancestor, Huineng, and his senior disciple, Hurang, in their first encounter, Huineng says to him, "Where did you come from?" "From Mount Song." And he said, "What is it that thus comes?" And Hurang went off for 8 years before he came back with a response. 8 years. I won't go into what he said, but the point is, this is a practice where a teacher won't always, more often than not actually, make things clear for you. You have to find out for yourself. We had a retreat in Lancaster recently, and I had that sense of the retreat wobbling into being, because it's a pop-up Zendo, and we create it, and we wobble together. We lose our balance, we find our balance, we find our way in 3 days. And we have to make relationships and make decisions of how to take care of that beautiful space, which has never before been created in quite that way, in 3 days. We're not a monastery, we're the tradition. And sometimes, because our teacher isn't there, we have to make our own way, our own decisions. Flint is not somebody who's ever over-explained things to me. Had to find things out myself. There's a story of a teacher who, I don't know where it comes from. So the Sangha is walking in a circle, as we do, and a teacher is walking behind a student, and the student reaches out to prevent somebody from wobbling, and the teacher grabs her hand and said, "Allow people to find their balance. Allow people to wobble." Now, I can imagine, if I think of the circle we had in Lancaster 3 weeks ago, I'm kind of there, and I'm thinking, where am I in that continuum between allowing people to find their balance and wanting to make it all right? And I think I have a history of kind of wanting to make it all right, of feeling responsible. And one of the things that's processes that's happening to me is I'm learning to keep upright and not intervene, unless, of course, there is an intervention that is required. And I found that quite difficult, actually, but I'm finding some freedom in the uprightness but responsiveness of that place. It's warm and it's flexible, it's not rigid. And I wonder where you are when you walk round the room. Where are you on that kind of allowing freedom to find balance and wanting to make something all right? And of course, the opposite is also true. You could have, if that incident I described is in the morning, it could be the afternoon, and there's somebody actually who's really going to fall over, and the person that the teacher said to allow people to find their balance takes it as the complete teaching, and the person falls over and injures themselves, the teacher would probably say, I would want you to take this teaching, see how it works for you, but I didn't say, don't prevent people getting injured. So it's something about each teaching is true for that moment, and then it's not. So how useful is each one for you in your own context? One of the most moving things I've ever seen is a few years ago, we had a retreat in Lancaster, and we were walking around, and there was one of the participants, a woman who was crying, really, the tears and the sorrow were so evident. And she was walking around, and I thought, oh, okay, what's the response here? What can we do? And Flint came out of the circle and actually walked beside her, quite close, but he just walked with her round the circle, round and round the circle. It seemed to me a great teaching about finding that place where we support each other all the time, but we also give space to find our way forward, each way forward. I'm always very moved when I realize people come to a retreat which includes, sitting and walking, and how tender that is to see everybody's walk, everybody's way they move in a wheelchair, or it's a great gift to come and offer yourself to this practice with something so simple as walking and sitting. When we lose our balance, we die, but at the same time, we also develop ourselves, we grow. So, there are some things in what I've shared that you would like to explore as questions, and with me, I'd be delighted to do that. Thank you for listening.
We have Joel.
Thank you, Maria, for unmuting me, and thank you, Josh, for
Hi, Joel.
For this offering today. And I wish you a speedy recovery. I'm in awe of you calmly giving this talk in the midst of an illness. So, I'm just reminded of a couple of things that have happened. I know you've probably heard this as well, but Flint has told a story many times of being in a retreat where he, at the end of the retreat, the senior teachers came and served oryoki to the participants in the retreat, and that he broke into tears at the generosity of the gesture. It brings tears to my eyes to think of his reaction to it. It's such an evocative story, and that a woman who was sitting next to him gently placed a tissue on his cushion, without any request from him. And I've always thought of that, and I've thought of that as a kind of ideal of closeness in the Zendo, of a beautiful communication between people without words, and so on. And I came up against that as a barrier one time in a sitting. It was actually during a retreat. There was someone that I knew from my work. We were in the same line of work, fundraising. And he was in very evident distress, and was crying a lot, and I went and talked to Peg and said, should I do something? Should I I knew enough to hold back and ask first, but I said, should I do something? Could I be like the woman in Flint's story, to at least indicate that I see, and that it means something to me? And she advised me not to at this time. She said that she had talked to this person and that he needed the space to allow these emotions to come out, and that it'd be better not to do what I wanted to do at that time, bring him a paper napkin or something, so it is, as you say, it seems so important to pay attention to the context, and it's so hard to know. But in all the cases, it seems that you were citing, that there is the important thing is to be aware that your own reactions can interfere, but that your own reactions also can be recognized as rising from real compassion.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Joel, that you also kind of were asking those questions, okay, what's the response here to this?
Yeah, I wanted to know what a teacher would do, what a teacher would say. And of course the teachers for the retreat were fully aware of the what it was just that I was sitting right across from the person and very much moved by what he was experiencing.
Like it touched your heart, and your inclination is kind of to, well, how can I, support this person? And I think it's hard, isn't it, sometimes to. It's not doing nothing, is it? Because you can still be really present, as you say, with what's happening just by your presence. But
yeah,
it's a hard one, I think. Yeah.
And the question that arose for me was, well, am I doing this to help the other person or to soothe my own feelings?
Yes. Yeah. I really get that. Wanting to be of help, which isn't always helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to me, that connects with what you started with. It's not always helpful to explain things. Sometimes it might be, but very often it's not. And we have the example of dozens of interactions in the teachings and with our own teachers where explaining things is not the path they chose.
Yeah. It can become deadening sometimes to have something explained. Yeah, it's almost like you're alive or dead. Where's the aliveness?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
So good to see you.
Dawu Heisenberg. Right. So.
We have Lisa next.
Oh, hi, Lisa. Hey.
Oh, Josh. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. So this started off for me, the losing one's balance started off, very literally for me, because that's something I'm keenly aware of. I have no forefeet any longer as a result of amputation secondary to an accident. And so I walk quite well, but I'm also, some interesting pieces of it are that in order to walk well and keep my balance, I have to make some deliberate choices. I need to do certain exercises to keep my core strong. Nothing dramatic,
Mm.
but it's like it's a real cause and effect. You know, if I neglect those exercises, then I can't walk properly. I'm also much less stable, much more inclined to lose my balance. And in my case, if I lose my balance, it's much biomechanically with no forefeet, it's much harder for me to recover my balance than, you know, someone else, someone with their forefeet. So this took me several places because I'm so aware of it. And it's like the whole idea of balance. Well, you know, I compensate a lot. I compensate when I'm going downstairs. I'm careful to always grip a handrail rail. And, you know, I have one hand. Should I fall? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm holding tight. Oh my gosh, you can see where this is going. And, you know, it's so much like our practice. It's like, you know, taking a path, whether known or unknown, and holding on, having the support of others. So that, you know, even if I get off balance, it doesn't have to be, it just can be a guidance of knowing that someone is there. And that allows me to have the experience of, you know, falling in and out of balance, if you see what I mean.
I'm enjoying the way in which I'm seeing you come into balance as you describe it with your body. There's a lot of a kind of aliveness as you're
Yeah.
speaking. Yeah. You feel
Yeah,
it.
very embodied sensation. This took me to a slightly different place of getting off balance. It's so a few days ago, I was in Costco, a big warehouse store, and I was looking at some meat products on a shelf, and there was a guy next to me. And he was looking at things, and we started talking. I would say he was 40 or so. He was Black. He was just very casually dressed. But the nature of the conversation was he was saying, gosh, this is really expensive. And he said, but my kids like it. And I said, well, yeah, it is. And then we looked at something else. And I said, well, you know, like, why do you have to get that? You know, what's the big deal? Well, he is a foster parent for 5 children.
Wow.
Ages 7 to about 13 or 14. And I said, how did you get started? He said, well, you know, I went to a camp and I was asked to work with 18-year-olds. And he said, I found I liked it. And he said, I've been doing this for over 30 years. And some of the kids stay longer, some shorter. The whole getting off balance for me, oh my gosh, this man, you know, I said, well, do you have any, you know, help? He said, well, I get food stamps and this and that. And, you know, my whole heart just longed. I wanted to do something.
Yeah, really touched.
To do something. And I thought about getting his number. And then I thought about how I'm too, it's like, well, I feel like that a lot. I feel like that a lot. I want to help. And I didn't get his number. So that's the kind of off balance piece. And I still feel off balance because if I had given him my number, it's like, well, he seemed to have connections to organizations, but I so would have liked to offer him, oh, we can figure out how these different things cost. So you can, he was tired. He had to get this food before the kids came home from school. Okay, that's kind of long and convoluted, but it's like, whoa, I just want to go back and redo that one so much.
I can feel like it really touched your heart, and it's like you really wanted to do something, but sometimes it's just not possible.
But if I really tried hard, I'm so resourceful, I'm so creative, it's like, oh, if I had just gotten this number. Oh, it's just that there's a little piece of regret. And regret, that's kind of getting off balance in a way.
And sometimes the regret prevents us from meeting the next thing, because we're seeing the regret from being in the store with that man, and then the next thing. Okay, what am I going to meet next, and how do I meet it as fully as I'm able to? So I think sometimes lingering things can really help us with a question. Is there a real question in there I want to explore? But sometimes it kind of goes on, and then you kind of can't meet the next thing. So it's an ongoing practice.
Yeah, and I'm, how will I meet the next thing? It's like, it's really staying with me. So that was a powerful theme on many levels. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your. Thank you for sharing your balance.
Oh.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, hi, Joan.
Hello.
Hello.
I am so touched that you would still be here for us. And I wish you a speedy recovery.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I am experiencing a lot of imbalance these days. And it's something I have fought against all my life. I lived with the illusion of control, probably until I got to this practice. And so I haven't had a lot of experience of really recognizing the imbalance because I have done a pretty good job of fooling myself. But now we actually are living in two places because we have rented a place close to our grandchildren. And I had things all figured out here in Austin. But now I'm at this other place and it's just so disorienting.
Yeah.
And I am recognizing what an opportunity it is to learn to live in groundlessness, which is, of course, what I live in every day, except that I have somehow managed to delude myself into thinking, I'm balanced. And it's just an ongoing work that I'm doing. And part of my problem is figuring out how my meditative practice fits in. Every moment is practice, and I'm really aware of that. But, I had it all set up of how my life was and where meditation fit in. And now when I'm in two places and it was early morning and I've got early morning child duty at the other place. And it's just,
Yeah, I kind of have that sense. What you're bringing forth in me is that balance is dynamic.
yeah,
It's a process,
ongoing.
ongoing, and it's the life as it is, um, flowing backwards and forwards into balance, out of balance.
turning flips and landing or falling,
Sure. Yeah.
getting back up.
It's it's really hard sometimes to think all these opportunities are opportunities for for practice, and they are. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's painful. But have that sense of you playing with the kind of possibilities
Mhm.
of what coming into balance and out of balance would be.
And perhaps maybe finally embracing it and
Yeah.
welcoming it,
Mm.
and maybe not hoping to get comfortable with it,
Mm.
but coming to peace with it.
Yeah. I mean, what you're what you're sort of inspiring in me is the possibility that you can, um, when I said earlier, Suzuki Roshi said, I rest in every moment.
Yeah.
And you,
Yes.
and you rest off balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of, oh, I like that. Or I like
Yeah.
the possibility of exploring that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because it's because it is a process and it's dynamic. It's never going to just be one thing. Yeah,
Thank you.
really nice to meet you.
Nice to talk with you.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Well, we have Denise next.
Hello, Denise.
Hello, hello, Josh.
Hello.
Oh, I really wish you a complete recovery
Thank
and
you.
that COVID just passes by like a wind. I hope, yeah,
Yeah, we'll see.
we will see. So, Josh, the theme of balance is something that has accompanied me throughout life, and I think, Joan, very much in the way what you were discovering together with Josh right now. I feel very much as well. And I remembered while you were talking, it's a song by Laurie Anderson, Walking is Like Falling. And it's like this intriguing relationship between what we call balance and what we call losing balance, but we could also lose unbalance in a way. It's so while I was listening to you, there was this moment, I think this balance moment of an opening in me, where I could receive your teaching differently, but then it was gone again.
Okay. Is it still retrievable or is it kind of?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
It is retrievable while I'm talking to you.
Yeah. So it kind of happens through the relationship that we're,
So,
yeah.
and even it's not personal, it's something, it's like a space, I would
Yeah.
say.
Oh,
So thank you.
but I'm feeling your teaching coming the other way, Denise.
Mhm.
It's not personal. It's like a space. It's like, oh, I can feel it's coming from somewhere deep inside you. Oh, yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And we have Genevieve.
Jeanette.
Hello.
Oh,
Thank you so much for being with us,
right.
especially now. And I was in the evenings, well, my evenings with you at your retreat 3 weeks ago.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I very much appreciated being welcomed there.
Mm,
And
see you again.
I want to express how much I appreciate what I'm hearing from you and from Joel and through you from Flint about each moment being different. And
Mm,
I think that the very notion that there's an answer to something,
mm,
it obscures one's experience of the moment.
yeah.
And I often wonder when somebody says, well, Buddha answered X with Y, I often wonder, well, did he answer X for Y at that moment for that person?
Mm,
Or because people often just seem to think he answered Y, and so it's always Y.
mm, mm,
And I was reminded of a time. I live in Maine now, but I used to live in Austin, Texas. And there was a time I went to a storage facility and it was getting dark and, it was unoccupied. Everybody had their keys, but I just had this general feeling of like hostility and that maybe it was a little bit dicey to be there by myself at night. And um, in the midst of this experience, it also occurred to me that people going to storage facilities kind of by definition are going through transition, and that
mm,
often doesn't bring out the fuzziest feelings in people. But in the midst of all this, I won't go into the details, but I found myself, there's a gate that had a lock, and there's a code to enter, and the code wasn't working. But finally, the gate got open, but then the car ahead of me wouldn't move. It stalled. So there was someone in the car, and then there was an African American gentleman pushing the car from behind, and nothing was happening. He was trying to push it up a hill.
mm,
And I was in that moment, and I remember having things in my arms and just thinking, what do I do?
yeah.
What do I do? And then I thought, because I grew up outside of Boston, Massachusetts, where it snows, and whenever anybody's car is stuck, whoever is there comes and helps. It's just the nature of the culture. And everybody knows that sooner or later they'll be stuck. So, um, so I sort of answered myself with that. I was like, you know what to do. So I remember just dropping whatever I was holding on the ground and moving up to the car bumper and pushing right alongside of him, right next to him. So we were so close, and the car started moving, to my surprise. And then we were up and almost over it, and he turned directly toward me and he looked me in the eyes and he said, "Thank you, darling. I needed your strength."
Oh, oh, that's really touching, and it feels like, to me, it was an appropriate response to that moment. And just coming back to your earlier insightfulness, I think we can grasp a teaching and think, oh, that's it now. I've heard about that incident, and this is the way to be. And sometimes it may be, and sometimes it may not be helpful in a certain context. And um, you can get a bit. Um, if we think about balance and the flow, we can get a bit rigid around an idea. It's always this way, and not always so.
It always changes.
Yeah, something beautiful in that. Um, Suzuki Roshi once said something in the morning, and in the afternoon, his student repeated it to him, and he said, "It was true when I said it this morning, but now you're saying it, it's not true." Yeah. Mm.
Well, thank you for the many teachings of today and the way they eloquently together speak to this notion that there is flow and that being fully present in each moment with curiosity creates the possibility of an answer in that moment. And
Yeah.
then there's the next moment, and then there's the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeanette. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Thank you so much, Josh.
And we have the lightning round with Mary.
Hey, Mary. It's good
Hi,
to see
Josh.
you. My COVID buddy.
Oh. I thought me having COVID was no excuse to not come up. And I'll try to be brief because of the time, but it's all the one hand again. Somehow talking about the retreat and you saying about people not answering questions just brought forth this sound of one hand that I got on the retreat, and how beautiful it is that Flint didn't try and answer it, but how much it's with me. And I was touched by Lisa as well.
Yeah, very physically.
Yeah, it's like so strong, that the feel of wanting to raise it and bring it to you right now. I think it's something about it's like we're in it together.
Yeah.
I feel so sorry I gave you COVID, and we're in it together.
We're in it together. Yeah.
It's like there is no one hand.
You give me so many things, Mary, which includes everything. Well, COVID is just one small thing.
Somehow, yeah, it has to include everything.
It has to include everything. Yeah. Yeah. That's what loving friendship is, what spiritual friendship is. It includes everything. Thank you. We'll do the 4 practice principles together. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been very beautiful to see you this evening, and or whatever time zone you're in. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Over to Maria.
Thank you so much, Josh, and thank you so much for being here and on your when you're so poorly. And I hope the rest of the evening involves reclining and resting. And And thank you all so much for being here. And if you'd like to offer dana to Josh or to any other of the teachers at Appamada, please do go to the website at appamada.org, and there you'll find opportunities to contribute, and just put the name of the teacher in that you'd like to offer dana for. So thank you all so much. And if you'd like to continue to meet and share, then please do stay right where you are, pop yourself into gallery view, and I'll join you for another 30 minutes. Thank you all so much. And thank you so much, Josh.